Episode 18 of the I Am Your Friend podcast, and our guest today is our friend Chelsea.
What's up?
How's it going?
It's good. It's good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for coming on. It's been a long time since we've seen each other.
It's been a very long time.
I think since I was in Fredonia, probably.
Yeah, I feel like it might have actually been. Was it that house party we both played?
Yeah, which I think was either my senior year. It was my senior year. It was the end of my senior year. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, so what was that now? 4 years?
2017. Yeah, 4 years ago.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Time is so weird.
It is weird. You're telling me. I know it was like going through college, and you went to Fredonia as well, so I'm sure it was a similar experience, but like those 4 years flew by, and now like me and like my group of friends from college are now in this weird conversation where it's like, dude, we've been out the same amount of time we were in. And it's just like, this is fucking weird.
Try
man.
double that, dude. I've been out 8 years.
Yeah. It probably goes by just as quick. Huh?
Yeah, it's super, it's just wild. Because I think back to it, and I had Facebook memories coming up recently, and it was like, this was 10 years ago. And I mean, none of that stuff feels necessarily 10 years ago. You know what I mean? Like a decade ago, that's like hard for me to grasp. I mean, yeah, it was a kind of a different life in a lot of ways, but that just seems so vast that it's almost impossible. But,
sure. Yeah. It is kind of weird thinking about that 2011 was 10 years ago.
Yep.
You know, and I'm always it's such a popular thing now for bands to do these anniversary tours of albums, and seeing like the tours that are getting announced for like 10-year and 20-year tours. It's just like, oh my God, like what happened, you know?
Makes you feel really old.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. For me, it's like 20 years ago. Like 2001, I feel like was when I really started to pay attention to music and like get a grasp on how things worked.
Okay.
So like 2001, there were just Jimmy Eat World's Bleed American just turned 20 the other day, and it was just like, wow, like I remember like that album coming out, and I remember hearing The Middle for the first time, you know, and like I was like just old enough to like understand like what was actually happening. It wasn't just noise to me at that point, you know? Right. So it was it's weird to feel like that was 20 years ago. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, well, I'm definitely not a kid anymore for sure.
Well, it's interesting because, you know, Jimmy Eat World, they are one of my all-time favorite bands ever.
Same.
So it's funny, though, because you actually did get into them when they were popular, like at that point in 2001. Because I didn't get into them until, I mean, obviously I knew they existed. They were Jimmy Eat World.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was kind of the same for me. I just like, I knew The Middle and Sweetness, and like I knew that album. Okay. And then I discovered, I mean, Futures, I knew like Pain because it was in like an NHL video game in like 2004, I think. Okay. But other than that, I didn't listen to Clarity for the first time until like 3 years ago, probably.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh man, that record is just,
it's insane.
So good. Jimmy Eat World, it's just like, I could go on forever about them, but
please do.
Yeah, right. Let's think. I got into them. So I saw them open up for Green Day in 2005.
Nice. Okay. Wow. Is that the American Idiot
tour?
It
was the American Idiot tour.
Wow. I never knew that Jimmy Eat World was on that tour.
They were, yeah. So they opened up, and that was around the Futures time. And so at that point, I liked the song Work. I liked Pain. Yeah. But I really only knew the singles. So I saw them play, and it was just like, oh, cool, Jimmy Eat World played. You know, I was there for Green Day. I was 14, and I'm like, Green Day. So then like 2-3 years later, that's when I bought Bleed American. I think it was like the summer after my sophomore year of high school. And then I also bought Clarity shortly afterwards. And like that album blew my mind. Yeah. It was like, what is this band?
Yeah, it's insane.
It's just so good. Like Goodbye Sky Harbor. I don't know.
Yeah. That's the one that's like 13 minutes long, right?
Yeah. And when I first saw it on the record, I remember thinking like a 13-minute song, you know, cause I was like 16 or something. I'm like, what? Like this is
Who has
crazy.
time for this?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's still to this day, whenever I listen to that record, it's not just something I can put on casually. Like I listen to it all the way through, every single song. Yeah. And like, I'm still picking out the intricate parts in Goodbye Sky Harbor and like the differences in the music and like the little things he adds layer by layer. And by the end, it's all a cappella. It's like, I don't know. I just find that so cool. And I actually got to see Jim Adkins play solo.
Whoa.
When was this? It was like 2015, 2016, I want to say. Maybe it was 2015. And it was this small town, middle of nowhere. I drove like 6 hours to go. I just like had to see it. There were barely any, I mean, it was like maybe 100 people. Wow. Super small. He met everybody afterwards.
Of course. He seems super like the coolest chill dude. Yeah.
He was so cool. And I just like totally geeked that I met, you know, I was trying to be really cool, but I was like, yeah. I was like, I like your guitar. It's like,
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, he plays the thin line telly. That thing is amazing.
Yeah.
But Jimmy Eat World, to me, I was thinking about this recently about how like every band from that era, like as I'm getting older and I start to realize like the types of personalities that belong to like especially frontmen of bands, that they're just like these ego driven like assholes, you know what I mean? Like all of them, you know? But it's like, but I feel like Jim Adkins is that one exception that he's just like this normal guy. He's just a dude who just likes making music for no other reason than just making rock music. Like
he's a dad, you know. He's
right,
like,
and he's always been like that. You
right.
know, as far as deep as I've gotten into Jimmy Eat World and just like watching interviews and live videos and listening to Jim Adkins' podcast, like it's just like he just seems like such a normal, like down the middle dad kind of guy, and it's just like it's so rare to come out of that era, you know what I mean?
Pass Through Frequencies. That's a podcast.
Yeah.
Right?
Very, very good podcast. That was, I think he started it during the pandemic, and that was like as soon as I found out Jim Adkins had a podcast, I listened to every episode. So.
Yeah. Really, it's actually funny you're mentioning because earlier today, I've watched One Tree Hill. Have you ever watched One Tree Hill?
I have not, and I get asked this a lot. And I was singing a song recently, and someone was like, "Well, are you watching One Tree Hill?" And I was like, "No, is that in One Tree Hill?" They're like, "Yeah, it's the theme song. I don't know, whatever the theme song is what I was singing."
I don't want to.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, Gavin DeGraw.
That's definitely what I was singing.
Yeah. So I mean, yes, the show.
Right, that's embarrassing. I wish I didn't admit that.
No, it's okay. I mean, listen, it's a super corny show. I mean, like
Chad Michael Murray, right?
Yes,
Shout
like
out Buffalo.
Those soapy teen dramas.
Yeah.
Like I just got into them in my 20s, which is whatever, but like, and I just, you know, they're a guilty pleasure or whatever. But one of my friends suggested like, oh, if you have watched One Tree Hill, you should listen to the podcast that the women from the show are doing.
Oh, okay.
And so I just listened to an episode today because I was like, oh, I'll check it out. And they were actually interviewing one of the other cast members, and they were like, well, who was your favorite musical artist who came on the show? Because there were a lot of them. Like that show always had cameos, and Jimmy Eat World actually came on there.
Oh, really?
And so they were like, you know what? I'd have to say Jimmy Eat World. They were just like the nicest guys in the world.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Like,
we stand. We have to.
yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that like bands were like on the show. That's super cool.
Dude, Fall Out Boy, Pete Wentz had a storyline.
Oh my God. All right. I have to watch the show.
Yeah.
Just for like.
You got to see it.
So what was like the era, like what years was this show on TV?
I want to say One Tree Hill started maybe like 2004.
Okay.
And ended, I mean, it was on a long time. I wasn't even really watching in its heyday, but from what I understand, I mean, it was still on when I was in college. It was
on like the CW, correct?
Yes. Yeah. And I think it was on.
I remember seeing like commercials and stuff for it.
Yeah. I mean, it was like 10 years or something. I mean, it was
That's crazy.
Around a very long time.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say I don't think it was good all those years.
Yeah, probably not.
Let's try like the first like 3 seasons. I'd say you're safe.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. I'll have to check it out because I love shit like that, especially early 2000s stuff. I went down like a rabbit hole during quarantine of just like my obsession with just early 2000s, probably just like for nostalgia purposes from my childhood, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I watched like The Sopranos for the first time.
I've still never seen The Sopranos.
In my opinion, it's the best drama series of all time.
Wow. Okay.
I'd put that at number 1, probably Breaking Bad at number 2, and then I would put maybe Shameless at number 3 until like season 7, like seasons 1 through 7 of Shameless I would put at number 3.
Okay.
But I'm also a big TV guy. But I also watched the show 6 Feet Under for the first time.
Never seen it.
So that was it was also an HBO show, and it was on from like 2001 to 2005, which is like one of my favorite eras of pop culture.
Okay.
So like to watch this show and just see like the style of the early 2000s, especially now being like 20 years ago,
right?
You know, and just seeing how much things have changed, the music that was in it, you know, the kinds of like 6 Feet Under was a show that tried to be, actually so is The Sopranos, and I think it's just because that's what HBO did, was just these they tried to be so like culturally in the now, you know. So like The Sopranos is interesting because it was started in 99, and you like know when 9/11 happened, you know, and like you just feel this shift in the show after 9/11 happened, and it's just like, I don't know, I think that's super interesting because it was like that stuff that like I remember, but like that was like when my memory was first like forming. So like going back and watching those old shows, I love it just because it's like I think about where I was as a child, and like this was also happening at the same time.
Well, around that time you would have been what, first grade?
Yeah,
because we're 4 years.
I was in first grade when 9/11 happened.
Yeah. I mean, it was obviously a very memorable day.
Yeah, right. I remember it super vividly.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah, it's wild.
It's so funny. I think there was a tweet about this. Not talking about 9/11. Let me go. It's so funny. But there was something that was like, why are millennials so sensitive or have all these mental health issues? And it's like, maybe it's because we saw a terrorist attack live on TV when we were toddlers. Yeah. And I was like, I never thought about like how traumatic that really was, for everybody to see, like, and the fact that like the response of teachers to children was like, let's all watch and see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, my recollection was that, to be honest with you, I didn't even know what the World Trade Center was. Yeah. I had never been to New York City. So
I didn't even know. I'm 6 years old. I've never left South Buffalo at this point. Like, I think that's the entire world.
Yeah. Right. So it's like you're hearing about it. And I mean, they stopped us in the middle of the day. They told us what had happened, but it didn't even register to me because I didn't even understand what the building was. I didn't understand like the gravity of, you know what I mean? It was just, and you're still a kid. And so it's like, and then I remember going home and you're seeing it on the news, but it just didn't feel real. Cause I was like 11 maybe? I guess I was like 11.
Well, if you're 4 years older than me, you would have been 10 or 11.
But 10 or 11. I'm trying. Yeah, I guess September. My birthday's in November, so maybe I was 10. Yeah. So
late birthdays confuse the shit out of me trying to figure out what your age was.
Exactly. I know it's like, but yeah. So it was just a weird, and I guess it would make sense that it obviously probably did have some trauma, but just the recollection of it, even though it's super vivid, it's just such a like odd thing because I think there was a big disconnect for me being a child and also not even. It's like, obviously, when you saw it on TV, you realize, like, wow, that's a huge building. A lot of people were lost. This is horrible. But you're still a child. So I feel like there's
How do you even process that?
Right. Yeah. It was just a, obviously horrible thing. So anyway.
It's crazy. It is weird. And then they decided to put us all on social media right after that, which probably wasn't a great decision on their part,
Social media?
Yeah. It was just like, watch 9/11 happen. Sit with that for a few years and then get exposed to everything forever.
Well, so, okay, when did you start going on social media?
Real young. I mean, I had like AIM, or AIM if you were calling it that. Like when I was like 8 or 9, just talking to my, like, I was definitely in like 2nd or 3rd grade, and had AIM, which was obviously, I mean, I don't know if that counts as social media. It's just an instant messenger, but it was just like, that was like the first time being like connected with my friends online and making like some sort of a profile and setting your away message and all that
the
stuff.
Buddy profile.
Right. Yeah. And just caring, about your presence online. Right. And then MySpace came around and I was in like probably the 5th grade when I was on MySpace. Wow. I was like 10 years old.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were on it really young. I mean, I definitely had AIM probably from age 12. But that's all I really did. I didn't even have Facebook till I was 18.
Wow.
Because I didn't want it. And I never had a MySpace because I was just like, I was really insecure. I mean, I was very uncomfortable. It's
same,
like, yeah. And I didn't want to really post pictures of myself on the internet. A mix of insecurity and also like, we got hammered with those videos of like, this is what happens when you're on the internet. And you put a picture in like sexual predators. Danger. Yeah, exactly. So of course that's just
chat
like
rooms.
Right. Coursing through my anxiety-ridden mind. It's like, I don't want it. So it took me forever to get on social media. And then, I mean, once I did, it's like, well, now I'm on it, I guess. But I've had to get better at it just because of the nature of the job in radio, being involved with music, doing like freelance art. It's like, I feel like I need to have it. But honestly, if I didn't have any of those things, I probably wouldn't be on it.
Right.
I don't know.
That's cool. That's great, honestly. For me, it's more of an insecurity thing in a different way. And that for me, it was like, oh my God, I want people to like me. Okay. So it's just like, so I'm just going to expose myself to the world and just hope that they like me, and because that was just like, I mean, growing up in South Buffalo, like I didn't necessarily like fit in everywhere. I went to Catholic school. It was a small school. I was kind of a weird kid.
Catholic school too.
Yeah. I was the 2nd youngest of 6 boys, and like wasn't into sports, and like all the dudes I was in school with like loved hockey and football and stuff, and I was like, I like music, and they were like, shut up, nerd. And that wasn't necessarily true, but I mean, I had friends and shit, but it was just like, I don't know, the internet, I found it was like a new way to like be liked, I guess. And I probably didn't think about it that deeply, but I think that's how I was using it for a long time. And then, MySpace came around, and then Facebook. When I was 13, Facebook had just changed it so that it was no longer just for college kids.
Okay.
And then it was like, okay, 13 plus can have a Facebook. And again, I'm one of the youngest ones in my family, not just my immediate family. Like my cousins and shit are older than me too. Mm-hmm. So like they all had it. Like they all had Facebook.
Okay.
They were all in college and stuff, and I'm in like 7th grade, and it finally Facebook makes it, okay, 13 plus can now have Facebook. So I was like, oh, I'm going to get on it and add all my brothers and cousins and stuff like that.
Right.
So I was on Facebook by 13. I remember being in 7th grade, and once I made it, and like telling people in school, like, oh yeah, I made a Facebook yesterday. Like we can have Facebook now. And everybody's like, what is Facebook? Like nobody had any idea.
Yeah.
And then Instagram came out maybe 2 years later. Mm-hmm. And I remember not knowing Instagram was a social media. I thought it was just a photo editing app.
Yeah.
So I was just posting constantly, just random pictures, because I didn't know I was even posting.
Right.
Like I thought I was just putting these filters on and like making these pictures look cool, and then all of a sudden someone was like, why are you always posting like pictures of Tom DeLonge? Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I didn't even know. And then realized I had a bunch of followers, and like I'm just posting pictures
that's hilarious
of guys in bands that I just think the pictures look cool, when I was like 15. And then and then Tumblr came around when I was in high school, and I got that. I mean, I was like making YouTube videos when I was in like 6th grade, like putting shit out, like I've always been connected. And that's why it's like, and now I kind of have come to that realization of like, oh my God, like this huge chunk of my life, I've just been exposed to ridicule and criticism, and no wonder I hate myself,
Well, do you think you would ever be able to go without it? I mean, do you ever take breaks with that?
Yeah, I started to. So, after college is when really when it started to set in that I was like, what are we doing here? Mm-hmm. Like I was like, we all just have these like personalities, like these virtual personalities that are like different than who we actually are.
Yep.
And I had just such trouble. I felt very like lost in the world after college, because I had no idea what I was going to do. And I just like, a lot of my friends were still in Fredonia, and I was like angry that I wasn't still there, that I didn't get to still be there. So I just like unfollowed all of them. You know what I mean? Because it was like, I don't want to see this. And then they were, but then all of them are like, Aiden just unfollowed us and everything. What the fuck? And then I was like, it doesn't matter. I'm like, none of this matters, and then I just like removed myself from everything. And the longest I ever went was 6 months. Okay. Which was during the pandemic.
Okay.
At like the height of like the George Floyd protests and everything.
Yeah.
Was just like, I always felt like I was just like, I'm just not doing enough. I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing enough. I'm doing this wrong. I'm doing this wrong. They're doing this wrong. And it was just like everybody was just criticizing how everybody was doing anything when it came to that. And so I just was like, I don't need to do this. You know what I mean? Like I can still care about the issue and try to do it on my own terms. Mm-hmm. Because I think that's what like being an activist is, and not just posting every single thing and making sure you're doing it in the right way and conveying the right message and constantly criticizing yourself and everybody else around you, Mm-hmm. So I just completely deleted all of my accounts, like straight up, like was gone for like 6 months. And then, and it was like the timing, it was summertime, it's, and COVID numbers started to go down last summer. So it was like, all right, I can hang out with people again. I don't need to be on this and keep up with all of them. Right. Mm-hmm. And then numbers went up again in the fall, and then that's when I got back on it, because it was like, okay, now I don't see people at all, and like I don't know what people are talking to, you know what I mean? Because it's like, especially me and all my friends, like we all interact on social media, like it's part of like how we communicate.
Right.
So once you get off of that, it's like my friends almost like I don't know what they're doing, and I don't know what's going on, and I'm left out of inside jokes and stuff that start on Twitter and Instagram or whatever.
Okay.
So then I got back on it. And then honestly, since then I felt I've had a good balance on it, but I had to get off for a while and kind of just kind of realign myself. So,
well, it's interesting because I feel like even just this 4-year difference between us, I think that like, even just that, because you guys were younger when you were getting introduced to it and on it, I guess like, I think a big thing for people who are, cause I'm 30, like people who are like in their early 30s, maybe even late 20s, I don't know. We didn't have smartphones
right
all during high school.
Yeah,
really.
I got my first smartphone my freshman year of high school.
Okay, so there you go. So it's like, I mean, I had like a flip phone. The thing is, I don't even think I had a cell phone till I was like maybe 17, like my own cell phone.
Well, that's kind of funny because that's how. So again, I have older brothers, right? So my brothers, like, my parents were like, you're not getting a cell phone until you're 16, right? But then by the time I was like 11 or 12, right? So that was the rule for my older brothers. But by the time I was like 11 or 12, it was like all my friends have cell phones.
Yeah.
You know, and that was kind of like a thing that my parents had to like adjust and be like, okay, this is different now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to be left out if I don't have a cell phone until I'm 16, you know?
Right.
So I got one when I was like 12. I got just like a flip phone, you know, and that's all I had was just flip phones, really.
Yeah.
And then like my freshman year of high school, I think I got an iPhone.
Okay.
And it was like one of my brother's old ones, you know.
Okay.
And from then on out, I was just connected all the time.
Yeah, because I had a flip phone even into college, and then I think I got this like knockoff BlackBerry my senior year of college, and then like I didn't get a smartphone until I started working at Alt Buffalo because they were like, you should really have a smartphone, and I didn't want one, and they were like, but you need to take pictures, and I was like, okay, and then. You know, so I got one, and I mean, obviously now I have one, and I try and, you know, distance myself at times because it is addictive. Yeah. And I think, you know, you said before, and it hit the nail on the head. It's like social media feeds into all of our, you know, I think a lot of us at least feel that need to be liked.
Yeah,
I mean,
totally. It's
just
the
like,
human condition.
Right. It's like the approval
We're a tribal
thing.
species.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and you want approval and whatever. And I mean, I've definitely dissected before, like, why do I care so much? Like, how many people tap on this picture? It's like, because it really, like you said, like, it is not real. And I mean, if you go through, I don't know, I feel that everyone might have their own little individual experience. You described yours. Like, I've had a couple too where you just kind of have this reality check of, if this app disappeared tomorrow, if the internet
we'd all be fine.
Left, right. None of that stuff equates to real life. I mean, like, I guess in a way you could argue it does, just because, say that you're in a band or something, you're posting about your show, and so you have a certain fan base that's now following you, and that's the way people follow you now. You know, people don't find out about your show by like going down Elmwood and seeing posters. Usually it's like they go on social media. So in that way, I guess, you can argue that it translates. At the same time,
we'd adjust though.
Right. Like, and if you're posting just like a selfie that people like, I mean, that's all well and good, but like in the real world, I mean, none of those likes, no matter how many likes you got, like, what does that mean here? Like, intangible space, you know? So it's just interesting. But I mean, I fall victim to it too. It's like, we all do. It's like, I'm not going to pretend like I don't, you know?
Yeah. And it is funny. And there's definitely some sort of gap, right? Even between you being 4 years older than me. Like our distance age is not that much, but there is a generational because of the timing. Yeah. So like, I am technically both a millennial and Gen Z.
Okay, are you Z?
Yeah, okay. I'm like the first.
Gotcha.
I was born in 95, and the 95s are the elders.
Gotcha. Okay,
from what I've read. Right. So it's like there's this kind of crossover window that exists that's like 95 to like 98 or 99. Okay. That's like are considered both, really. Okay. And that I think, like, from my own conclusion would be that is what that shift is that we, like, you know, Facebook came around when I was in 7th grade, right? Smartphones came out when I was a freshman in high school, maybe a little bit earlier. I mean, the iPhone came out in 07, which is when I would have been in middle school. So like that shift was so big for being, you know, 12 years old and younger, you know? So it's like, I think that's really what that shift is. And I notice it in like everybody I talk to that's even just a few years older than me, that there is that difference of being like growing up kind of alongside it and like, or like knowing even a little bit without it. For a lot of your childhood makes a big difference. Yeah, well, because even though we had the internet and we had things like AIM and we had social media, you had to go to your computer to go on it. Sure. Like, and even in college when we didn't, you know, most of my friends didn't have smartphones during college. Like, you know, we were on our laptops, don't get me wrong. We were on Facebook and, you know, socializing in that way. But it was like you had to actually log on your laptop, go onto Facebook. We also just had digital cameras. We didn't have smartphones. You weren't uploading stuff right away. Like, you'd go to parties, you'd take pictures that night, but then, you know, you put your camera away. There's like no one commenting on it right away. And then the next day, maybe like, you know, the real ambitious of us would go and upload the pictures right away onto Facebook. Yeah, like, last night's weekend, you know, or someone had last a digital night's weekend. Camera. Yeah, exactly. Right. The digital camera. But so yeah, there's that different thing. But
Actually, I'm curious. So when I was in high school, because I didn't have social media, what I did though check religiously was absolutepunk.net. Did you go on absolutepunk.net?
I did not. I probably did. I remember the website, and I've heard of that before, and I can almost picture it in my head. So I'm sure I did, but it wasn't like a regular thing.
I was obsessed. That's what I was checking. That and Wikipedia articles about bands I like.
I also was like real into hip hop when I was in high school.
Okay.
So I was on Hot New Hip Hop a lot.
Okay.
And Dat Piff, which were basically the same kinds of things. You know what I mean? It was just like music blogs, but it was all around rap music. I mean, like Mac Miller came out when I was like a freshman or sophomore in high school, and it just like changed everything. Like at least at my high school, like everybody was into like just Mac Miller and Kid Cudi and Kanye. It was like that's all anybody cared about. So I do remember Absolute Punk, but I didn't go on there. But I did have a similar experience though, where I was just like going on those websites. But at the same time, like at this point, Twitter and Facebook were just like a thing. So it was just like everybody would just talk about. That's how I would discover
on there.
On there.
Yeah. So yeah, it's funny. I would always go to Absolute Punk because they had like message boards. So it would be a whole page of news of what was happening, and they had little icons for like everything. So it'd be like, oh, Fall Out Boy's doing this, Say Anything's doing that, like, what other bands were hot at that time, early 2000s stuff. Like it would have stuff about most of the pop punk stuff, some like punkier stuff, sometimes some pop, but it mostly stayed like, I remember Taylor Swift or somebody like covered a Boys Like Girls song, and they like posted that in there. It's like, Taylor Swift covered this song last night, and then there's all these people on the message boards like, oh my God, like I can't believe she would do that. Which I love Taylor Swift.
Same.
Yeah, but
I actually talk about how much I love Taylor Swift on this podcast a lot.
So, do you? Yeah. Oh man. All right. We should talk about that.
Yeah.
But so I think I was so obsessed with it because at that point in my life, like I loved music. I played guitar. I would sing to myself, but I was not performing, and it was kind of my dream to be like part of that whole scene and that whole thing. And I felt like, wow, these people are so cool. Like everyone, so you're kind of like stalking these boards. Like I want to be like them.
Yeah.
But,
that's interesting. That's super funny. I like that. When did you start performing?
Oh, geez. My first like performance ever was when I was, I think 17, but like, I was terrified. I mean, it wasn't like something where it was like, oh yeah, like that felt exhilarating. Like I got to do that again. It was like, I did it. I performed my original song. I was happy I did it. But like, I was like, I felt like I was going to throw up. And I mean, I know I want to do this, but that was horrifying.
Yeah. Especially like, you were saying you were a person that didn't really like putting yourself out into the world. So that has to be a tough hurdle to get over.
Yeah, exactly. It was just like, I remember the leading up to the performance, I was obviously just a wreck. Like I was like so nervous, and I was trying not to show I was that nervous. It was just an open mic night at my high school. It wasn't like some high stakes.
I performed at open mic nights at my high school too.
Right.
There would be like 7 people.
Exactly. It's like there's like no one there, but like I was just like freaking myself out. I just kept thinking like, well, it's your song and no one else has to know like how you envision it being sung. And like Bob Dylan was really famous and people didn't like his voice. So like, not that I'm like Bob Dylan, but it was like, but you'll be fine. Cause like, you don't have to have the best voice and it's okay. And I think it was
finding ways to reassure yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. And, but I did it. And the response, whether people were just being really nice or whatever, it was positive. People were like, wow, you wrote that. And that was really great.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And I knew I wanted to do it again, but, it just took me a very long time to not only like get the confidence to perform, but also to just find my voice.
Yeah, totally.
Because I think we all start with imitation.
Absolutely.
How can you not?
Performer, yeah.
Exactly. And
yeah.
so
I was doing Mark Hoppus impression probably for most of. Actually, what's funny is people tell me I sound like Kenny from The Starting Line.
Oh, no way.
Which is funny because like when I first started performing, like The Starting Line was like my favorite band.
Okay.
And it's funny that all these years later, like people still pull that out, that I sound like Kenny from The Starting Line. And I'm like, damn, like I don't even hear that. Like but it's in there, but it makes sense. And I get that one, and I get Brendan Urie a lot too, which again, around the same time when I started performing, like Panic at the Disco was like huge, so it makes sense. But it's funny how like I feel like I have at this point found my own voice, but it's in there somewhere. It's
always going to be influenced by other people.
Totally.
I think like maybe what was a challenge for me was like I was listening to artists that, you know, women who had high range voices, and I just don't. And so it was like I was trying to sing like that, but it sounded like just an imitation because it's this falsetto that is really not my voice.
I can relate to that so much. Again, say like my speaking voice is very low.
Exactly.
You know, but I was listening to Fall Out Boy and The Starting Line and Blink-182 and these guys that had these high voices and singing these high registers, and I was just losing my voice every night after I would perform because I'm trying to sing these like high songs that I'm just not meant to sing, and literally didn't accept that until like a year ago.
Really?
Like I've finally just started writing songs that are just like I don't know, singing in like a lower register for the first time, that I'm just like, listen, I'm not that pop punk vocalist. I'm just not. And I just have to play to my strengths, and I can sing really well in this register. So instead of trying to push to be something I'm never going to achieve, this is where I have to be, you know?
Yeah, but that's the great part about being a performer and finding your voice. Like when you do have something that's your own, I mean, and then it's you know, it's like, obviously you're going to be influenced by other people. That's just how it goes. But it's kind of nice when you can find your own range and something you're comfortable in.
Absolutely. Yeah. So when did you get to that point? Because you do not sing very high.
No, I don't. I'd say I kind of started to discover my voice in college. I was in a band, and I would also perform open mic nights with a friend of mine.
Cool. So when you were at Fredonia, were open mic nights still at EBC?
No.
Where were they at?
They did the ones I was usually performing at were actually on campus at what is now a Tim Hortons.
Oh,
but
okay.
Then it was I don't even know what it was. It wasn't Tim Hortons yet. That didn't happen till my senior year.
Okay. So it was just a random like space in the Williams Center?
Yeah, it was just like a space in the, you know, the Common Center or whatever. And we would just I would typically perform with this one friend of mine, and she was in a cappella groups, and she was a really great singer. Like she had actually transferred to Fredonia from where had she gone? Maybe Ithaca or something, and she had gone there as a vocal major.
Oh, wow.
But then when she transferred to Fredonia, she was like, I don't want to be in the music major anymore, and so she changed her major and whatever. But she obviously had much better grasp on voice technique than I did. You know, it was just like I just wrote my songs and I wanted to perform them, but I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. So she kind of like coached me a little bit, and that helped. And I would do harmonies for her and stuff. But then I got into a band, and you know, at first was still kind of doing that imitation singing, and then it was just like, this just isn't working. Like, what do I need to change here? And suddenly it was like, you know what? I'm just going to be like Courtney Love. Like, I'm going to be super aggressive and just shout most of the time. So started doing that, and then I got a little more confident with the lower vocal. And then as time went on, you know, graduated college, got into Wolf, Stress Dolls, whatever. It's like
Wolf, that was the band.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of it and I couldn't remember Wolf.
Yeah.
I think that's how we met, because I think Pat and I booked you for BJ's at one point.
Yes, that, or actually I was thinking about earlier, I'm like, I feel like I remember you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but were you in Laura Johnson's class when she came to have me speak about sexual harassment?
Whoa. Maybe. I don't know if I remember that.
Okay, because
I had Laura for classes all through, like freshman to senior year. Okay. So maybe it was like a freshman or sophomore thing that I might not remember.
As I was thinking about it, I was like, I feel like you might have been there, like in my hazy recollection, because I remember just talking. I mean, this was back in 2015, 2014. I mean, it
would have been like a sophomore.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. But I remember she had me come speak because I had talked to her in confidence about some experience I had at the radio station.
This is coming back to me.
Yeah, and she was like, you should come talk to the kids. Like, you know, they need to know that these things happen.
She was the best.
Oh, she's amazing.
She's the reason I'm doing a podcast.
Yeah.
She was like, we had a whole class that literally, like, she just talked about how podcasting was just the future of audio. You know, we were all audio majors, and she was just like, listen, I know this is like a radio thing, but like that's kind of dying, you know, and like this is kind of what's coming in, and like it was really cool that, like, you know, she was able to recognize that, and just like we did a whole class like dedicated to understanding podcasting, and like would just listen to random podcast episodes and stuff, and it was really cool. And so that's literally like, I would not be here doing it if it wasn't for that. So
that's awesome. She when I was there, she had like just started kind of teaching us about the podcast thing. Like we listened to certain ones. What's that one that I think NPR does?
She showed us that.
Yeah.
They make fun of it on SNL.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it's called.
And I can't remember what it's called, but she showed us that one. and maybe like another one or two, but she was still, mostly we were kind of being taught as far as radio, just because it was definitely on its way out in a lot of ways, but it was still, I guess, somewhat viable. I don't know. I remember it was Todd Brody who came in, and I love Todd, and like he was just right away like, okay, so just so you know, like, this is not a living anymore. Like, and literally it's like, I had just been in the major for like 4 years, not saying that like I was necessarily, I was kind of goofing off in college a little bit. So it wasn't like I was in it and I was like, yes, like my career, like whatever. But it's like he says that and you're like, oh crap, like maybe I should have double majored. Like maybe I should have done something else. But it was obvious, it was well worth it at the end of the day. Yeah.
That's funny. I probably would have been working in radio post-college had I gotten an internship, which I tried really hard to get and didn't get, which is crazy because like everybody got that internship. And I think for me, it was just like horrible timing. It was just like whoever, I don't remember who it was, but there was somebody, whoever was like in charge of the program, the internship program at Entercom. Mm-hmm. I was emailing with them. They were letting me know like when the application process was starting and like or when that window was opening, whatever. And I was like working with them and like getting the application together, whatever. And then that person like was gone. They just left like out of nowhere. And then a new person came in and were like had nothing about me. You know what I mean? Like I had been working with this person to get that internship and then like that person had left. And then this new person came in and was like, I have nothing on you anywhere. Like, so I had to start all over.
Oh my God.
And then I don't know what happened, but I ended up like just there. I didn't get it.
I feel bad. Was I working there at the time?
Probably, but I don't think we knew each other.
Oh, okay. I was going to say you could have contacted me.
I believe in silver linings that, things happen for a reason, whatever. Mm-hmm. But I didn't end up getting it, but it was like when that internship started, it was like a bunch of my friends were doing the internship. And it was like I was the only one who didn't get it because this is just weird timing thing. But it was like, I don't know, whatever. I don't think I wanted to work in radio anyway. But I think I would have had a semi idea of, when I finished college, it was literally like I have no fucking idea what I'm about to do.
Yeah, I think a lot of us feel that way.
Yeah,
and even if you supposedly have it all sorted out, things change, and life leads down different paths. So.
Yeah, well, so I double majored because I was also a music business major. Mm-hmm. And my music business advisor basically told me I had like a job lined up for me.
Oh.
Right out of college, which never existed. I found out afterwards. So, there were a lot of just setbacks I had to face, which is tough at 22 when you think like everything's about to work out. It's like I did everything right.
Yeah.
I went and I got my straight A's and I did my extracurriculars and I did all this work, whatever. And it's like, so now I'm going to start to get the job and get to whatever all these doors are that are supposed to open when you have a degree, and then it's like, I'm working at Best Buy at the mall.
Yeah. I mean, even if you were to have worked in radio, I guarantee you, like, everybody there had a second job.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't make your living off of it anymore.
Right.
I maybe if you were in the sales side, but if you're on the production side or the on-air personality side, it's like the people who have been in the game for like 30 years, they're fine. But like anyone getting into it now or then, it was like,
market.
It's like you had to have supplemental income because there was just no way.
And now 107.7 is a country station.
I know, and now it's kaput, so that's how it goes.
Yeah. It's sad. It's sad to see. Alt Buffalo was cool. I really liked just like what it was. It seemed like the only station of like credibility, or I don't know about credibility, but like that had any integrity for caring, I mean, and even like you having localized was just like the coolest thing, that it was like, oh my God, one of the radio stations is playing local music. Like, it's like, that should not be such a foreign concept. And it was so cool that it was able to happen. So tell me about starting at Entercom and eventually getting your own show.
Wow. Okay, sure. Well, first of all, I want to acknowledge that what's really cool is that you did Local Lowdown at WCBF.
I did, yeah. So, all right. So before we get into that, we'll tell this. So you started Local Lowdown, right? That was so Local Lowdown was a show that Chelsea started at Fredonia Radio Systems. Shout out WCVF.
Yes.
And so it was a show that was dedicated all to local music. And you had live performers. You'd have people come on, like local artists come on and perform, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I only had it for one semester because I was PD my senior year, and I didn't come up with the idea till Christmas break. So then it was like when I came back. So I only had it for one semester. So Lexi really took it over after.
Oh, okay.
You know, I
so
left,
all right. So Lexi takes it over after for a year, I think.
Yeah, I guess so.
And then she graduates and passes it to me, which I had it for then 2 years. Okay. I think I took it over No, she was a year older than me, so she had it for a little bit.
So maybe she had it for like 3 years.
She had it for a few years. Yeah. And then so then when she graduated, she passed it to me, and then what I did was I was working with Pat Walker, booking at BJ's. So I was like, I think it was originally on Thursday nights. So I was like, okay, well, BJ shows are on Wednesday nights, so let's just move Local Lowdown to Wednesday nights. And then whatever band is going to be playing at BJ's that night, have them come on the show.
That's a great idea.
You know, so that's what we did, and would have whoever was playing BJ's would come to the radio station, do an interview, do an acoustic performance, and then, you know, we'd just, hey, come down to BJ's and see them tonight, you know, like, so like that kind of thing. And that was just super cool for me because this is how I got to like know all of these bands and kind of become like made all the friends that I did in the Buffalo music scene that I was like not a part of. And then eventually it was a warm welcome for me because people already knew me from doing that. So
yeah, for sure.
So then you go on to work at Entercom and take Local Lowdown.
Exactly. To 2.0, I guess. Yeah. Maybe. I mean, what's really cool is Local Lowdown, I think, actually still exists while Localized does not.
Yeah.
but that said, what was awesome was that obviously the CVF had local music in the system. It just hadn't been updated in forever. And so since I was so into music and I really loved going to the bars and seeing musicians, and I was kind of getting more into the Buffalo scene and, you know, who was actually from here playing around. It was just kind of fun to explore that more with Local Lowdown. And so then once I did that show, and even though it was only one semester, it was like, wow, there's a lot of really great bands in this area, like legitimately very good. You know, I feel that there's this stigma with local music as if it's kind of cheesy or something. I don't know, or that it's not good enough to be. But guess what? Every band that's ever been famous starts out as a local band at some point. Yeah. So anyways, I was working in Entercom. I was actually doing KISS 98.5 weekend night shifts. All during my senior year. And so then once that stopped, I was a producer for a short period of time for the news station. But during that time was when they said that there's going to be an alternative station. And I was like, there is. And I was thinking to myself, I wondered if they'd be cool with the idea of a local music show. And so Nick Rivers, the PD, was hired, and I went in to speak with him, and I brought it up. Like, you know, I would really love to do the local music show. You know, I did one in college, and I'm really passionate about it. And to his credit, he was just like, yeah, okay. Like, wow, run with it. And sick. I was like, great, awesome. Yeah. So, like, you know, he let me name it. Like, he let me do everything. So that was pretty amazing. I mean, I really had full control of that entire thing, which was awesome, because I don't think that that's usually something that happens in corporate radio.
Totally.
So the fact that he let me just run with it was super cool.
Absolutely. And like I was saying, like, that's kind of why I liked Alt Buffalo. It was just this, it was cool. Like, it was this new radio station, which you don't get a new radio station, you know, and it was playing music that I liked. Like, I remember when Alt Buffalo first started, and I would just like tune into it every once in a while. And I was driving home one night, and I just like put it on 107.7, and The Story So Far was playing.
Okay.
And I was like, yo, The Story So Far is playing on a radio station. Like, that's, to me, that was like the craziest thing, because the only thing I was used to hearing on radio was just like top 40 and like country music and whatever the fuck 103.3 was doing. And so it was like to hear like this like newer, you know, not necessarily, I mean, I guess like indie punk band on the radio was like, oh, okay, like this is something different, you know? And then, you know, to have the local music show and everything, and have a platform to, you know, have my music on the radio was just like the coolest thing in the world. So.
Yeah, it was super fun. And as you said, with Local Lowdown, that you felt that experience allowed you to meet so many different people in the scene. That's how I felt that Localized was for me. You know, I met so many local bands and artists, and I made a lot of friends. And what was great was that I was also a musician myself. So if a band came on the show I really liked, I would be like, you want to play a show together sometime?
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, most of the time people were receptive to it, and it was really fun because I got to play with these musicians who I admired and really dug their music.
Right. Yeah. It was kind of the same for me doing that, because then I, just booked myself to open BJ's Fest. When there was like a bunch of bands I looked up to, I was opening for, and I was like, yeah, let me open it. Like, let's do it.
Why not?
It was my senior year. It was the last show. So I was like, all right, I'm giving myself this one. You know? But yeah, that is cool. And what, so you ended up leaving Alt Buffalo, obviously before they dissolved.
Yeah. I left in 2017. Yeah. 2017 to move to Nashville.
Oh,
that's why I left.
Why don't I remember that? I knew you left, but I didn't remember.
Probably
why.
Because it was kind of a shit show.
Oh, okay.
I've talked about it on social media, I guess, a little bit, and it was basically what my last album was about. So I suppose I'll just talk about it now. So basically what happened was that I have chronic illness issues, and namely GI issues, and ulcerative colitis is a big part of that. And I wasn't officially diagnosed for quite some time, but I started having the symptoms probably like senior year of college. But was able to function pretty normally for a while. And then I started to get really sick. And honestly, I was just in the mindset of, I'm young and this can't be happening and I don't want it to be happening. So I'm just going to pretend like it's not happening. I mean, I don't think consciously I was thinking that, but I think subconsciously that's where my head was at, because even though I felt like I was acknowledging what was wrong in certain ways, I mean, I definitely wasn't taking care of myself because I had ambitions and things I wanted to do. And the biggest ambition was, I want music to be more than just my hobby. Like, I want to be somewhere in the music industry, whether that had been a songwriter or an artist, or, in the dream world, it was like, wow, I'm an artist and I'm signed and whatever. But it's like, I would also like been cool with songwriter, just somewhere in the music industry. And so I was like, the only place I didn't want to be in New York. I didn't really want to go as far as LA, but I loved Nashville. I had visited a few times. And I was like, I want to go to Nashville. So I moved there. Great time. Very fun. Probably not as fun as it could have been because I just kept getting sicker. And to the point where I, had to come home. And I came home for Easter, I think. And my parents were just like, you got to go see the doctor. Like, you are not well. I mean, it was obvious. And I was like, okay. And, then I was hospitalized for a month and I had a procedure. It went wrong. It was a disaster. It was just like crazy. And so after that whole thing, I come home and I moved back in with my parents. And at first I was like, I kept my apartment. I'm in Nashville. I'm like, I'm going to go back. Then a month came and went. I was like, I don't think I'm going to get back. It's just like, I was just too sick. And so it's like, all right. So that was like a whole mental, circus of just like feeling like, okay, like my dreams are crushed and, these things aren't going to happen. And the thing is, who's to say anything would have happened anyway? I could have very well been there and like nothing ever would have happened with music outside of it just being something I love to do. I mean, that's also very plausible. But it just kind of felt like when I was there, I was only there for about 6 months, but it just being there, you really felt like things could change and like things were happening. And I was starting to book shows and I was meeting musicians and like I was co-writing with people and it was feeling really great. And then it all went away. That said, once I, started to feel a little bit better, I started recording with my friend Charles Duzel from this band Lone Star Sailing. I don't know if you're familiar with them. I love his music. He's just like one of my favorite songwriters locally. So he has a studio in his basement. So we started like just collaborating and initially from afar because I honestly was so ill I could like hardly leave my house. But like then once I started to feel a little bit better, like I was able to go to his house and we would record more and whatever. And then I started collaborating with my friend Jay from the band The Demos from Rochester because it was like, well, why the hell not? It's like, might as well just be collaborating with different people I've always wanted to, because it's like at this point I just want to make music because I love it and I'm sick of worrying so much about what it might mean as far as like a career and blah blah blah, and I don't know, it just really, I think in a weird way, like the experience made me love music again. Not that I didn't love it before, but it was almost like a realization, I suppose, of like why I even do any of this in the first place.
Totally.
You know, it was like, okay, like I do this because I love doing it and it's super fun just to collaborate with people. And for the last release, it really wasn't a release. You know, it's kind of sad. It's not very like bouncy. There's one song on there that's a little more upbeat, but you know, I feel like it was just kind of a vent session, really. It was like, I need to get this out and then I can move on to the next thing. But, you know, in the past, it was kind of like you put out a release and, you know, I mean, obviously you want to put out the songs you feel are the strongest and the ones that you feel are going to be catchy and whatever. In a way, you know, you're not trying to totally cater to people, but it's like, you know, it's like, okay, I think this song
you want it to catch on.
Right. It's like, you think this is our strongest song, blah, blah, blah. But for this one, it was just kind of like, I just feel like I want to vent this all out. And so it was all good. And I met more people in the local music scene than I had known prior to leaving and, you know, made more friends. And really, it's like, it was great.
Silver linings.
Exactly. Big silver lining. Yeah. So sometimes it just takes a little while, but.
Totally. And you still got to go to Nashville.
Exactly. And I
still got the experience out of it.
Right. I still got that experience. I'm very fortunate I did it all. And, yeah, I don't know. I'm just happy to be here.
That's rad. And I'm glad you were able to, you know, start taking care of yourself and realize the things that you needed to realize to make yourself happy with just making music. That's kind of something that I've realized recently as well, is just like, you know, it's almost like if you care too much about being successful, your music's going to suffer from that.
Oh, for sure.
You know, where it's like, if you really are passionate about like the songwriting process and making the song, the rest will follow, you know, but like, I think prioritizing just making the music is the best thing that anybody can do, you know, because it's like, and just make it for you. Like, maybe it doesn't work out, probably not going to work out
exactly.
But like, the best way to try is to just make it for the purpose of making it, you know. Stop worrying about, you know, how you're promoting it. Not stop worrying about it, but don't worry about that more than, you know,
than the music.
Yeah. Don't do more photo shoots than play shows.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
I think that's probably the simplest way I could put it.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's very true. I don't know, because it's a really cool thing once you give it all space to breathe and you kind of realize, like, you know, to create is just awesome. And
totally. Yeah, love that. I saw you were doing a whole cover set.
I am.
Which is super exciting. And you're doing an album.
Live Through This.
Is that the one? Is that like the one?
Yeah, pretty much. The one with Violet, Miss World.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Billy Corgan co-wrote it, I believe.
Yes, I think he did. Supposedly,
or maybe just a few songs.
Supposedly, like Kurt Cobain also co-wrote some of it. I mean, people kind of. So, for a while, what kind of pissed me off is like, listen, Courtney Love is, you know, I won't even go down that road because she's kind of, you know, her own thing going on there. But I did feel when I was a little younger that, like, is it just sexism of people being like, oh, well, she didn't write any of that? Right. And it's like, okay, but like, I feel like she must have done some of the work because.
Yeah, I mean, she's a rock star.
Right.
She's
it's like,
crushing it. Yeah. I've always looked up to Courtney Love.
Yeah, it's like, I
know she's like problematic and a mess of a person, but like, she's an artist and really talented, and I love that album. I think it's like cool that Billy Corgan wrote it. Rather than, oh, she didn't write it. Like, I'm like, oh no, she worked with the dude from Smashing Pumpkins on this. Like, that's right. Amazing. I love that album. I actually listened to that album a lot, like over the last year. So I'm definitely gonna try to come to the show and hear that. What's the one song on that album that I really, really like? It's like not even a popular song on the album.
There's a lot of really good ones.
Oh, no. Wait, I'm thinking of Celebrity Skin.
Oh, okay. Well, Celebrity Skin has,
That's the one that had Billy Corgan co-write.
Okay, yeah. That one for sure then. Because, Live Through This was kind of more rumored. But, like,
gotcha.
I kind of felt when people, I mean, even if it's true that, Kurt Cobain helped write some of the songs, I mean, they were married. Like, they were in the same house and they're both songwriters. So, I mean, is it that hard to believe that they're contributing at the same time? And
totally.
Like I said, I'm not going to, I'm not, like, standing up for Courtney. Like, I love Courtney and love and love. But, I just felt like, I don't know, it just kind of felt sexist to me most of the time when people make those criticisms.
Yeah.
Like, girls can't do that. Like, they can't write a record like that.
It's the same thing with, like, people blaming Yoko Ono for the Beatles breaking up.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. It's like, I actually, just saw a whole TikTok thing that like Paul McCartney was on Howard Stern, like telling the whole story of how the breakup happened. And it's like John Lennon broke up the Beatles. Like he did it because he was in love with Yoko Ono, but like don't blame just
right. But he had his own brain,
right?
It's
yeah,
not like they put a curse on you and take you. I don't know. It's just so.
As I try to like progress as a human being and like unlearn all of these things, you just start to realize like the blatant misogyny that just exists in all these different things. And it was the same thing with, and this is again why I bring up Taylor Swift all the time, because it was like, it was so easy to shit on her, because it was just I don't know, the Kanye thing and
how many people she dated.
Right. She writes songs about her exes, and it's like, okay, so does fucking everybody.
Right.
Yeah. And it was just there's just a lot of those things that you look back on, and it's the same thing with Courtney Love. Like even like people who like think that she killed Kurt Cobain, like I feel like that's just rooted in misogyny as well. It's just easy to just blame the woman.
Yeah. I'd like to think that things are heading in the right direction slowly but surely.
Sure.
It always takes, I think, a very long time for stuff to actually change. But I mean, it's good that a lot of people, including myself, and I've read other interviews with women artists and such who have said the same thing, where it's like, even women, we have our misogyny rooted in us too, because you're taught these things growing up. And I even remember as a kid feeling like in a subconscious way, and I still think about this now, it's like that, that women couldn't write their own music all by themselves, and women couldn't if a woman, a rock star, is a little pretentious or whatever, well then, I'm turned off by her. But there's fucking pretentious male rock stars all the time that people just excuse the behavior anyway, because it's like,
totally.
Well, they're really talented. But when when a woman is a little it's like, oh well, we're really turned off by her now. It's just like, well, it's just not. It's stupid. So you just kind of have to reprogram and realize that. Those things.
And that's everything. We have to understand that a lot of these things that exist in us that we think are natural are actually taught and programmed in our society that is patriarchal and colonial, and that have kind of just how we think things should be are not necessarily how they are. And that's kind of a very eye-opening thing that I've come to realize more and more over the last few years as I'm getting older. And it's very interesting. And once you start to realize that and view that through a kind of zoomed out lens, if you will, a lot of things start to clear up.
Yeah. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I'm sure you've faced a lot of that being a woman in the music scene. Absolutely.
Yeah. To a certain extent, I guess I've felt very fortunate in that most of the time in the music scene in Buffalo, I've really felt respected. And,
awesome.
And most people have not made me feel, and there's been a lot of times where I'm on bills with, all men, but no one has made me feel as though I'm less than or in any way. I'd
That's
say
good.
Most of that misogyny and sexism I experienced in the workplace in radio,
sure,
to be honest.
Yeah.
Not necessarily at all Buffalo, and I
Right.
won't name names or anything, but just in various times I definitely experienced things where you're like, what?
Yeah.
And I was so naive. When I was 22 going into it, I guess, or even 20 when I really started working it, it's like I just hadn't had those experiences. It's like my dad's a really great person. I have a brother who's a really great person. And the men I had been around in my life, hadn't sexualized me or been weird and creepy.
Sure.
And so I really didn't realize that was something to be on the lookout for. And when it started to happen, it was like, what?
Yeah.
It just felt from another world almost. I guess I was really fortunate that I kind of had the wool over my eyes, to be honest. And then once you realize it, you're like, well, this isn't cool.
Totally.
Yeah. So
Well, that's good. I'm glad the Buffalo music scene isn't as fucked up as it could be, I suppose. Or it's probably a lot a lot of
in my personal experience, it hasn't been.
Right.
So I don't know.
Not to say it doesn't happen, but
yeah.
Interesting. So you're still doing Stress Dolls.
Yes.
Which is basically a solo project, right?
Pretty much, yeah. I collaborate with people here and there, but
Sure.
just kind of easiest to keep it solo at the moment.
Nice. So what's going on with that? Anything?
Recording music. I mean, the record's actually technically done pretty much. We're just mixing it. But it's just it's been almost a year since we started, and so it's been kind of a long time coming. Yeah. But hoping to get it wrapped up sort of soon, and then it'd be great to release something from it before 2021 ends. But
right.
I guess I'm also just kind of, maybe you can like weigh in on this. I'm wondering how to even release the music anymore, because I guess there's a side of me that really loves releasing stuff at once. I mean, I like to have a single and then like you release the rest.
Yeah.
But I feel like lately most artists are just releasing singles and not albums.
Yeah. I hate that.
Yeah.
And that's just me liking albums. I'm a huge album guy. I like only listen to albums. Mm-hmm. And so like I get it, you know, we kind of live in this fast-paced world where it's just like you can only hold people's attention for so long. But I also think like that there's people like me who exist that appreciate a whole album. So like I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
I mean, Post Prom's about to put out a 12-song album.
Oh, nice. Congrats.
Yeah. I don't know when. Hopefully like we're thinking September maybe. I would really like to get it out by the fall because the record just sounds like fall in Buffalo.
Okay.
You know, and I just really want that to resonate, you know.
Nice.
But alas, we're almost in August, so we got to start doing so. It's basically done. We got a music video done. Album art is almost there. We're planning another video tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
And then we're doing like one more video that we're gonna do for ourselves.
Okay.
And hopefully we can just make this all happen by like the end of September. That would be awesome. So we'll see. But I mean we're gonna put out 3 singles.
Okay.
And then the full album. So we're still gonna do, you know, the single and
nice.
Album thing, which I like, and I don't think that's necessarily dead. But I do know what you mean. You do see that a lot where artists are really just putting out like one song at a time and just calling it a day and just trying to ride it for a while.
Yeah. And I mean, and I get it because I feel that people are fearful of attention spans and they want people to actually listen to the song. And so I get why that happens. But the songs I'm releasing, I was split between whether to call it like, is it an album or is it an EP? Because it's 6 songs.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's that tweener where it's
I just
like,
always, at that point, I call it a project. I'm putting out a project.
Exactly, a project. So,
but that's super popular right now, though. These like 6-7 song albums are like for the same reason, you know, that people are just putting out these small little projects. What I like there's this band, Turnstile.
Okay.
That's like on their way to becoming like this gigantic band. They were like, I saw them at like an Every Time I Die Christmas show a few years ago, and they were like a very small, they were like one of the first bands that played, and now they're just like this. They put out like this 4-song thing that was basically just like as a single or like a prelude to the album. They put out 4 songs as like one cohesive thing, but it's like a part of a bigger album that's coming later. And they did like a whole visual thing with it, and it was really just like very different, like very new, super cool, and it worked really well. And now it's like everybody is just like blowing up about it. And now they're touring with Chief Keef. I just saw like they're like a hardcore band, and they're touring with like a really big rapper, you know. And it's just because they just did this like weird, unique thing. So I don't know. There's a bunch of different ways you could do it, I guess. I like the idea of just doing a few singles and then just dropping a record, you know, and you know, we're putting out 12 songs, which is I guess in this day and age is a lot. But
no, but that's, you know, I think that's cool. I think, I mean, when you think about the bigger artists, I guess, you know, like artists who are nationally known and such or internationally known, they still are releasing albums.
Yeah, I mean, Taylor Swift put out
oh my God,
2 albums last year or 3?
She put out, well, technically, I guess 3.
If you include the
re-release. The re-release. But I mean, in Folklore is 18 songs plus 2 bonus tracks.
Yes, what the fuck are we talking about? Yeah, you can do whatever you want. Yeah,
right. You can do whatever you want, but I guess, you know, there's always a little voice in my head that's like, well, should you do the singles? But
no, do whatever you want.
I know.
That's what I say. I mean, that's what we are doing with this album. Is just like we are a band who likes full-length albums, you know, and it's just like the music we're inspired by, the artists we're inspired by make these 10 to 14 song albums. So that's what we want to do, you know, and we're doing it for us, you know, not to try to like fit some mold or anything. So
that's what you should be doing, as we were saying before.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Put it, and we're just like, we're putting all this money and time into it, and like putting it out ourselves, like with no expectation, like just as like, hey, we worked really hard on this, so here it is, you know, and that's it. Like,
I really liked that Counting Crows cover you guys did.
Oh, thanks. That was a super last minute thing we decided to do. We recorded that after the album that we're putting out, which is funny. Yeah, we just, I don't know, because the album was originally supposed to come out in 2020. We were supposed to record it in April.
Okay.
We didn't end up recording it till August because of COVID. And so we, you know, weren't really... We were kind of set back, and it was like, all right, we haven't put anything out in like a year, so we should do something. So Charlie came up with the idea of like, let's put out this Counting Crows song like about the end of the year. Like, it was a tough year for everybody. Like, it just makes so much sense to just do this, you know what I mean? So we did. I'm glad you like it. And that was kind of that realization moment of singing a lower register for me. Is that I sang this Counting Crows song, and for the first time putting out a song, people were like, your voice sounds really good on this, which like is not a compliment I usually get. Not that it's like, not that anybody's ever said my voice was bad or anything, but it was like, you know, good song, good melodies, whatever. But like, that was the first time people were like, your voice sounds really good here. And that was kind of like okay. And it was because I was very comfortable singing in that range, you know? So it's like, all right, I'm going to try to write stuff more like this and kind of play to my strengths here. So that was where that happened.
Yeah, your voice does sound really good on it. And actually, I just heard it for the first time, like maybe a week ago or something. And I was like, this is really good. I tweeted about it.
Oh, for real?
I did. But no one answered the tweet.
Oh.
That's okay.
Did you have a question? Was it a...
No. I was just kind of saying like, oh, this is really good, you know. And so I tweeted. So I was hoping like you guys would see it, so you'd be like, oh, good.
I'll go find it and toss you a like.
It's really okay if you. There we go. Back to
it matters.
We've come full circle. Yeah, right. Yeah. Like my tweet, or else I don't feel validated.
But and that's kind of now where at least for like my vocal style, I'm kind of trying to be more inspired by the like 90s like Counting Crows, Gin Blossoms, Goo Goo Dolls, kind of Third Eye Blind kind of sound, where it's like not, I mean, some Third Eye Blind songs are like very, very high, but for the most part, they all kind of hang in this like middle range where it's like, it was cool then, like in the late 90s, to kind of have this like lower registered kind of down the middle male vocal. And that's kind of what our sound is molding into anyway as a band. So it's like, all right, this makes sense. Maybe I'll just, you know, I can adjust and really, again, play to my strengths. So
yeah. Speaking of Goo Goo Dolls, like how cool is it? Aren't they one of the best selling like artists of all time?
So when we were in the studio, they were recording upstairs.
Okay.
And Johnny Resnick like sat in with us a few times, and like we got to play. Charlie got to play two of his guitars.
Nice.
On the album, so it was like a really cool experience, especially like growing up with their music. Like one of the first bands I ever loved, and probably the reason that I love Buffalo music so much is because it was like they were the band from Buffalo, you know. So I just completely lost my train of thought. Why did you bring them up?
I was just saying how cool it was that they're from here, but they're one of the best selling artists all time.
So when we were in the studio, we ended up looking, because it was like, how crazy is it that the John Resnick from the Goo Goo Dolls was literally just like chilling in here with us, you know? And I'm just like, how big really are they? Like trying to like gauge it, you know? And I found a Billboard list, and I believe it was Billboard's top 200 pop songs from 1990 to 2010, and Iris was number one.
Really?
Number one charted pop song from 1990 to 2010.
Shit.
So it's like, that's a pretty significant, you know, thing to own there. And I mean, that song is incredible. Like, I never get sick of that song.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane. But really, like, that band, like, just consistent from like Superstar Car Wash, which was 92, I think, through like Let Lovin' in 2004, 2005, like just back to back, completely changing their sound and just like never dropping off. Like, phenomenal.
It is crazy. There's actually a super cool video on YouTube. Look it up if you want sometime, of the Superstar Car Wash record release at
Record Theater, wasn't it?
I think it was at Record Theater.
Yeah, I've watched it.
Have you watched that?
Yeah, Johnny's wearing a backwards hat. He's got his bangs coming through the front. Yeah.
He looks so hot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's so cool. Well, it's funny because I actually I have some friends who are a little older than us, and they like were around at that time, and they're actually like in that video, like young.
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
like, and it's so like to recognize them, it's like, oh my god, because
I've
they
watched
hung around
that before.
them.
It's very, very cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it is cool to see, that just to grow up and like know that there's one of the biggest bands in the world, even like when I was a kid, was from here, and even like, I mean, Robbie's parents live like right around the corner from me,
no
too.
way.
Yeah.
That's super
which
cool.
Which is cool, yeah. And I was always involved in like, I played when I was in middle school, we had like a school-oriented rock band that was basically just like school rock, kind of thing, that like a teacher ran, and like it was all middle school students that played in the band. And that was really like my start of performing. Mm-hmm. And like how I learned how to be an actual musician and like play in a band. And we would play Music is Art Festival like every year. So it was really, really cool for me to just like be involved in that, from a super young age. So.
Nice.
I just burped and it was gross.
It's all good.
I usually try to move away from the microphone. But
no worries. That kind of thing happens. It's real life.
That Fall Out Boy shirt is just phenomenal.
Thank
I meant
you.
to say something about it earlier on the pod.
Thanks.
But I'm glad I brought it up now.
It's a Take This to Your Grave cover shirt. Actually, funny story. So the original shirt I got, they misspelled Joe Troman. It said Joe Troham. So they sent me a new shirt for free.
How did that even possibly happen?
I know. It's like, wow, big boo-boo on the part of the shirt company. But they did, to their credit, they sent one for free to everybody.
I think that's so interesting that they actually like were typing out the name, like the letters, instead of just like printing the album cover.
That's exactly what I thought. But I was like, wow, they must have just not had the original artwork in that form to be printed on a shirt.
Which is kind of cool.
So they had to remake it. Yeah. So it's pretty sick. This is one of my favorite. Well, I have to say, From Under the Cork Tree is actually my favorite Fall Out Boy album. Yeah, because it's just like,
I go back and forth. I've changed my mind on it before. At this point in time, From Under the Cork Tree is my number one. Take This to Your Grave is my number two.
Okay, I mean, that's how I'd say I rate. Yeah. And then kind of, to be honest, after From Under the Cork Tree, I mean, I owned Infinity on High.
Infinity on High was the only CD I ever pre-ordered.
Really?
Yeah, I remember I went to FYE.
Okay.
And I don't remember what I was buying, but I just got talking to the dude working, and he's like, "Did you pre-order the new Fall Out Boy CD?" And I was like, "No, I didn't even know they were coming out with one." And then he just like totally got me, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll pre-order it. Why not? Just make sure I have it." And then I got it, and then I was like, "This is weird." But I do actually, going back to that album, I got the vinyl of Infinity on High last year. And it was my first time listening to that album, like probably since it came out.
Oh, wow.
And it's actually really good. And I gained a new appreciation for it. And it was like, they were just ahead of their time, I think. It was like, there was a easy transition from Take This to Your Grave to From Under the Cork Tree. Like, it made sense, the transition of their sound. But then Infinity on High was like kind of like a little bit of a leap.
It was super pop.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, don't get me wrong, I mean, they were always poppy.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely.
But I think especially at that time, I mean, they were my favorite band. I was 14 when I got into From Under the Cork Tree, and I was obsessed with them. And I got into Take This to Your Grave the same summer, and just like all Fall Out Boy all the time. My whole freshman year of high school, just
I was in like
them.
5th grade.
Yeah, right. It's
and
just I love this band
I remember
so much.
seeing the Sugar We're Going Down music video on MTV.
Same.
I was like getting ready for school one day, getting ready for Catholic school, and just like threw MTV on. And I remember watching the Sugar We're Going Down music video with the antlers and everything, and I was just like, oh, I want my entire life to be surrounded by this kind of music.
Right, exactly. It was like a whole movement, just like
at that point in my life, it was like only like Blink-182, Good Charlotte, Simple Plan, Sum 41, Green Day, and then Fall Out Boy came out. I was like, oh, this is new. Yeah, this is kind of different, I
kind of felt like before them, I really hadn't found my band yet. You know what I mean? It was like I had a really close friend who she kind of got me into like Blink-182, like we're saying Green Day, Sum 41. Like, so I was into that, but like I wasn't really passionate about it. You know what I mean? I was like, yeah, I really like these bands, but I was kind of waiting for like that one to hit me. And Fall Out Boy, it was just like, this is my shit. Like I loved them. And then
same.
Infinity on High came out, and I was kind of.
I liked the singles.
I liked the single. It took me. I remember This Ain't a Scene came out, and I was like, song. Okay, like I got used to it. I was like, all right. And then the day the album came out, I walked all the way from. So my parents live kind of in the Delaware Park area, so I walked all the way from Delaware Park up to. I don't know if you used to go to New World Records by Spot Coffee on Elmwood.
No.
So like in the snow. Walked all the way there just to get this record, which it was a long way. I can't think of it in miles, but it was a long walk.
It's like a 10-minute drive. So
yes, and got the CD, like literally wearing like jeans and Converse in snow. Like what was I thinking?
Yeah.
Ridiculous. But then I remember I came home, I put it on right away, and I was just, what the fuck is this? You know, it took me a while. It was just
weird. Yeah. Well, and that's how, and I kind of gave up on it almost immediately. But revisiting it recently, I was like, this is actually a super cool record. It just was like so different from the first two albums that it was just like my 13-year-old brain was like, what the fuck is going on here?
Dude, I got All This Ring into My Ears, None on My Fingers. That's a really good song. And when I first heard it as a kid, I just couldn't get it.
Hum Hallelujah, I think is on that album too.
That is
song's
too.
Amazing. I mean, Thanks for the Memories was a single, but that
it's
song
a really
is amazing.
Good song.
Yeah. It's a good album. Yeah.
It is a good album for sure. It grew on me over time, and definitely as an adult now, I can appreciate a lot of it more than I could when I was a kid. When you're a kid, I feel you have like an allegiance to these artists, and you really, as much as, you know, when you're an adult, you get it. It's like people get bored. They want to experiment. They want to change. But when you're a kid, you're just thinking like, I loved you this way. Why are you changing? What's going on? And then, you know, you just don't have that insight yet to realize like people don't stay the same forever.
Yeah. There were some bands that it was like they could literally put out an album of them shitting and I would have loved it. You know what I mean? They were like, just because it was them. Like I remember when Blink-182 put out Neighborhoods and I'm like 16, right? They just got back together. They put out a new album and I like didn't even care. Like it could have literally been anything, but just because it was a Blink-182 album, I was like, this is the best, you know? And now I go back and I'm like, I don't really like that album that much, you know? But I just liked it so much at the time just because it was Blink-182 was back together. Like I didn't care what they put out. I just wanted new music from them. So, and I think that happens a lot. Like, I mean, Jimmy Eat World has never put out a bad album.
Dude, I wouldn't say it's bad, but the least favorite of mine is Invented.
Which is, I don't even...
You don't know that one?
I probably do. I've listened to all of them, but I really only like Clarity to Chase This Light is pretty much where I hang out.
Okay.
You know?
Well, the latest album is actually pretty good.
I liked
it
a lot. But I listened to it maybe 3 or 4 times, but it's not something I'm going to... But
keep listening
But at the same time, you know, like... They don't put out bad albums, but it's just like it doesn't pull me in like, you know,
because Integrity Blues is actually phenomenal. I was gonna say that is a great
if
record.
I had to get like an honorable mention, it's that one.
Yeah, I love that one. But Invented came out probably around like 2011, 2012. And like I love them through it, but I was like, I think I've listened to that record once.
Right.
Like all the way through. And then I've listened to singles maybe a couple times and I'm like, not for me. But
Third Eye Blind's most recent album was really good with the exception of one song that was terrible.
Okay.
And it was like such a bummer that one song literally just like ruined the whole album for me. Like I really liked it. I was like, wow, Third Eye Blind is putting out like heat right now.
Really?
Putting out a really good record.
I didn't even check it out because I was like, this probably isn't worth my time.
Yeah,
so.
no, but there was just one song and I don't remember what it was. I was like, I don't know. He just tried to be like more like postmodern than that band should ever be.
Yeah.
And it was just like, you fucked up. Like you
Don't
ruined
do that.
the whole record for me. Yeah.
You know, a band that I think keeps getting better and better with every release is Paramore.
I agree.
Yeah. I feel like they really, I'll say that. So I liked All We Know Is Falling when it came out, and then Riot came out, and I was like, meh, but then Brand New Eyes, great.
Paramore's another band that I've literally been listening to since they came out.
Right? It's like self-titled, amazing.
Yeah.
And then After Laughter, holy
out of
shit.
This world.
Yeah.
After Laughter is fucking
so good.
Have you listened to Hayley Williams'
her
Pedals
solo
for Armor?
stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I like that a lot.
Super good. Mm-hmm. Paramore was like when I was in like 7th grade and I first started playing in a band. We had 2 girl singers, and so we were like, let's play Paramore songs. Like Paramore had to put one album out, you know. I think Crush.
That's Riot. Yeah.
No. Okay, so what was the big song on the first one?
Pressure.
Was it Pressure
or Emergency?
Maybe it was Pressure.
I can feel.
Yeah. I thought there was might be another one that maybe it wasn't a big song, but I really liked it off that. But anyway, that's what but we tried covering it and then realizing like, oh, this band's actually super good and these songs are super hard to play. And for the girls to sing, so it's like it's just not gonna happen.
She's an incredible vocalist.
She's one of the best.
Yeah.
One of the best. Yeah. I am obsessed with Hayley Williams. I always have been. And she's been through some shit, and I'm sure she has more to say about misogyny in the industry than fucking anybody, especially being in, you know, the scene of that she was in.
That like Warped Tour pop punk male dominated scene.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she was just so young.
And they were the fucking best band in it forever. And forever. That band is unreal. And I think that just goes to show like just like the kind of society that we live in is just like Paramore should be regarded as like the queen of our era, you know, of with how good they are consistently and how hard they work. They just don't get it, you know.
Yeah, I think Elton John gave them major kudos though. On
really?
After
That's
Laughter.
Sick.
Yeah, I think he was like, this is
After
like the
Laughter
best pop
nuts.
record of the year, and why isn't anyone talking about
There's
it?
a really good podcast episode with Hayley Williams on it was like an Apple Music podcast. I don't remember the guy who does it, the bald guy with glasses.
Zane Lowe.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I knew you would know. That dude, that's like, Zane Lowe is like who I aspire to be as a podcaster. You know, like the way he just gets like so deep into conversation, like, and just allows Hayley Williams to just open up and be vulnerable. And then she starts like crying, telling these stories on this podcast. If you've never listened to that episode,
I should check it out.
The two of them, it's unbelievable. And like, I have more respect for her than fucking anybody else in that scene. So
yeah, intense.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're doing a really good job with your podcast.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
I'm enjoying sitting here and chatting with you. It feels very natural. I even it's funny because when I do things that are recorded, not that it's been a while, but the one goes. I always try and be really conscious of my likes, you knows, and ums.
Yeah.
And so when
I'm
I
a
sit down,
guy through and through.
Yeah, I'm just like, okay, like I'm not gonna do it, and I'm like, I'm gonna be in control. But I always know when I'm actually enjoying the conversation, I get kind of excited.
Yeah,
they're gonna happen.
Yeah.
And they've definitely started happening during the course of our talk. Yeah. So I've been enjoying this conversation.
Liking, are like they don't stop, you know. And when I listen back to the episodes, they're all I hear, but nobody who listens to it says anything, so I think it's fine.
Okay, well, we'll just sweep that one under the rug.
Yeah. No, it is funny, but it's funny when I get into like really a passionate thing that I'm talking about, it doesn't come out at all.
Interesting.
Like I just start rapid firing about something, so I like when that happens, and it usually takes a while to get to that point. So I'm sure we got to that point somewhere in there when we were talking about
somewhere in the mix. Yeah.
We could wrap this up though. I think that was amazing. Hour and 20-minute conversation.
Wow, was it that long?
Flies by.
Oh my god.
Flies by. That's how you know it's a good episode.
Oh man. Okay. Well, hopefully the listeners enjoyed.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. We talked about a lot of good stuff. But Chelsea, thank you for coming on. Check out Stress Dolls on social media and when you'll be playing next. When is that Mohawk show?
August 13th.
August 13th
Friday.
So that's this 90s covers night, which I saw, and I was like, I am bummed that I'm not playing this, doing something
next time.
But yeah. If it happens again, definitely let me know. I'd love to do a whole cover set of something from the 90s. It's my favorite era of music. So I'm definitely gonna go. Hopefully, if I don't have something else going on, but I will. I
won't hold you to it. Don't worry.
I'm just
hopefully
saying,
you can make it.
It just sounds very cool to just hear a bunch of full albums get played from, again, in my opinion, the best decade of pop music. So
I'd say, it's up there.
Anything else going on that you want people to know about?
I think just if you can come to the shows, great. Look out for new music, and if you want to follow on social media, that's always appreciated, just because it's kind of the way now that we get out news.
I like that you put it out like, if you want to do this, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna be like, I'm not gonna force you or anything,
or
but
beg,
if you wanna, that'd be cool. And if not, that's chill too. All
right.
Catch you on the other side. Yeah.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thanks, Chelsea, for coming on. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Aiden.